Mr. Nikonov, how does Moscow view Trump's overtures? And if I can put it rather bluntly, can Putin trust Trump?
During one of those conferences, he was asked the question, what was your major foreign policy mistake? And the answer was, we trusted the West. So that's my answer to your question about trust of Trump. Putin doesn't trust the West. Almost every single arms control agreement signed by the American, the United and Russia, and then the Soviet Union, was canceled by the United States. Even signed agreements are not implemented. So no trust whatsoever. Well, I think they'll have a good conversation. I'm sure that Trump, after Witkoff's visit, knows pretty well what Putin wants. Putin talked to Witkoff for 3.5 hours. So they discussed the details. So Putin will come with certain nuances, as he says, on the ceasefire. He doesn't want ceasefire in itself because what we need is lasting peace and security guarantees for Russia. America's first approach is not just of President Trump, it's also Russian approach, Russia first. And that means they'll settle certain details of the possible ceasefire. For us, I think the most important issues are the verification of ceasefire and how they going to spend those 30 days. If those 30 days of American arms supplies, I don't think that will be something Putin would support. So this is just the first step. Actually, the second step, because that is the second telephone call between the two presidents in 3 years. But it also a second telephone call between the two presidents in 2 weeks. So if you look from this perspective, it looks promising. And from my personal perspective, I'm waiting for what's going to happen in 2 ways. First, I am in the State Duma chairing the committee of something non-existent. This is a committee which is responsible for friendship with the US Congress. As you understand, there is nothing going on between the State Duma and the US Congress. Hope it will happen. If not, okay, I'll be jobless. Second thing, you know, before this Russia-Ukraine conflict, me and Dmitry Symes, who is used to be colleague of Dr. Sanders in the Center of National Interest, co-host a program on Channel 1 of Russian television. It was a weekly show. When the fighting started, we had 4 shows a day. Now we have just 3. So for me, it's a matter of how many, TV shows we'll have, and it depends on the intensity of struggle. By far, my prediction, there'll be no decline in the amount of shows, since it is in the center of Russian public opinion. It is in the center of national interest, not in literal sense of the name of the center, but in Russia's national interest. And that is something which Russians follow and where Russian public opinion has a strong say. And Putin is also in tune with the Russian public opinion. And some of the public opinion are afraid that Trump's idea is to prevent us from winning the war. And that is also one of the trends in the Russian public. So definitely people would love peace, but not at any condition. And this is what I think will happen in the next couple of hours. A sincere discussion which will lead to further little progress and further telephone calls I get.
This question is to the Russian panelists, and it's a pretty simple one. Does the Russian state accept that Ukraine has a right to exist as a free and independent country.
Does Ukraine has the right for independent existence? Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Actually, Ukraine is an independent state, is a creation of Russia. It was the Russian Federation which created Ukraine and provided independence to Ukraine. You may remember that Ukraine was a product of the collapse of the Soviet Union and of the agreement of President Yeltsin to let Ukraine go. And we had very good relations until some, forces decided that read Brzezinski, Russia with Ukraine is a possibility of the revival of the empire. We should do our best to prevent that from happening. We should do whatever we can to take Ukraine away from Russia. They spent zillions. They were proud of spending zillions on NGOs in Ukraine, all these NGOs which are now being closed by President Trump. They just said that, 80% of Ukrainian media was sponsored by the United States, by USAID. That's what happened. And they managed to create Russians who would kill Russians for speaking Russian. And that's what happened. And Putin warned not once, not just in Munich, many, many times afterwards, in every speech he delivered, that Russia has security concerns. These are security concerns about expanding NATO, about bringing NATO forces close to the Russian border, which violates the Russia-NATO Founding Act. They were organizing already in military bases in Ukraine. Said, no, this is for us, this is the red line. This is, for us, it's existential. For us, it is like, Cuban Missile Crisis. For Americans, it was enough to threaten and to prepare nuclear attack on Russia because of they perceived that as their national security threat. Then Russians brought missiles to Cuba. For us, American missiles in Ukraine is no better than Russian missiles on Cuba for the United States. And I don't remember anyone objected to what Americans did then. They regarded it as their national security concern and a legitimate one. So we also have legitimate security concerns. And for us, this conflict is very serious, and we regard it as existential. And that means that Russia will go for peace, but not unconditional. I understand the feelings of our Ukrainian friends. They should understand our feelings as well. We also have casualties. War is a bad thing. No one likes the war. We definitely would like to have to move to peace. But now it's more difficult on the one hand because there are so many casualties, and neither side would like to just say, they died in vain, They died for something. Both the Russians and Ukrainians were fighting for their land, for their future, for what they consider to be right. I hope that at some point Russia and Ukraine will come together, sit together, and also be at the negotiating table like Trump and Putin. It's not for Russia and America to decide the fate of the third countries. I think Russians and Ukrainians living together for so many centuries can solve their problems. I'm half Ukrainian. Both of my grandmothers were born in Ukraine. I don't think we have much to divide. I love Ukraine, and I think we'll be together sooner or later.